So let's talk about the prices for the Emperor's Children, how much is Fulgrim, and that rather expensive new limited edition codex. And let's round up a bunch of other 40k news and reveals, teasers of miniatures in the future, some shiny new rocket batteries, and Games Workshop shuffling their web store around to put some Slaanesh demons under the Emperor's Children section. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today I thought we'd talk through a whole bunch of 40k news and reveals, a load of stuff that didn't necessarily need to be its own individual video, but I still found interesting. First up, let's start with the Emperor's Children prices. I was certainly interested to check back in once a whole bunch of them had got shared around the internet, and I was vaguely curious as to whether or not there'd be any sort of tariff impact for the US. I did think it was probably unlikely given that they hadn't gone into effect yet, and at least for this release wave, the boxes were probably shipped over a fair bit ahead of time, so it probably wouldn't have been relevant for them anyway, never mind the fact that they've been put on hold for a bit. If they eventually do wind up going ahead in the future, it seems likely to me that Games Workshop probably will raise prices, maybe Steam most likely by the full 10%, seeing as that's quite a clear excuse to do so if they want to. If they do wind up happening down the line, unless they jump straight to it, I feel like there's at least some chance they could try and tie them in with their sort of annual price rise they do for inflation sort of things. That usually tends to be either in March or June each year. It was June last year, so it seems more likely that it will be June again this year, and I guess that could be one way to deliver the bad news all at once, as opposed to piecemeal if they wanted to. I guess we'll see how that all unfolds, but broadly it looks like this release wave is business as normal from Games Workshop, just charging the prices that they typically have done in the past. This release all follows on from the Champions of Slaanesh box set. The launch box for the Emperor's Children came out around about 2 months ago. It sold out super fast in the US and Canada, sort of medium fast in the UK and EU, and stock remained for quite some time in Australia. As best I can tell, discount retailers around the place seem to be out of it in the USA and Canada. There are some places still in the UK and EU that are carrying the box set though. Element Games still has it for £145, and I'll link that down in the video description for people looking to land the box set in the UK. And Tash and Geldeep still has copies of it in Germany and the EU, those ones being sold at their normal discount. Even versus discount prices, it still looks like probably the best way to jump into the Emperor's Children at this point, particularly if you can find it at discount of course. If anything, my estimations as to the amount of discount in the box set were slightly under, given that it looks like the Tormentors and Infractors kit is more expensive than I'd guessed. In any case, feel free to check those out, linked down in the video description. As normal, anything bought through the affiliate discount retailers helps to support Auspex Tactics a little bit. Let's go through prices for the Emperor's Children launch wave though, and Fulgrim is $170, £102 or €135. He looks like he's one of the most popular things to be picking up this weekend. New Primarch models of any description always making a big splash in Warhammer 40k. Hopefully they're not going to go the same way as the Lion and not make enough of him. Basically no surprises on his price though, he's the same as his brother demon Primarchs like Angron. The Codex dice and data cards are all exactly as expected, £37 or $60 as per normal for the Emperor's Children book. Though I was certainly intrigued to hear rumours of the price for the fancy limited run codex. I've seen 3 different places report that it's $250 for the big fancy limited edition one with all of the metal counters and the fancy datasheet cards and things. And if true, that'd put it somewhere around the sort of £150 or €190 kind of mark, which does seem kind of ludicrously expensive to me. It looks like if you want to complete that magnetised Chaos coin thing, which they seem to want to get you to buy the 4 different Deity Legion codexes, that'd cost you a slightly mad $1,000, and while I'm sure some people will wind up picking that up, I feel like that's probably enough to dissuade at least some people who wanted to pick up the book. What's kind of weird is that they also have a different limited edition Emperor's Children book going on sale as well, so it's kind of odd that they're selling the same codex in 4 different covers for this particular launch. Usually their normal limited edition codexes tend to be £65 or $110. Lucius the Eternal is $45, £28 or €35, so exactly as expected there, in line with Games Workshop special character kits. The Lord Cacophonist looks like he's priced a little bit cheaper than some, $40, £25 or €32, so just a tiny bit cheaper than the Lord Exultant. The Flawless Blades, while still all very expensive for a 3-model infantry kit, I feel like you could perhaps argue are a little bit cheaper than they could be. They're $60, £37 or €47, so that puts them the same price as the Blade Guard or Inner Circle Companions, but a little bit less than the Exalted 8-bound from the World Eaters. I guess they had ways to fill them as 2 different units, and might be slightly chunkier models. They did feel at least somewhat equivalent to me though. Still feels like the best way to get them would be the Combat Patrol box set. The Lord Exultant is as expected the same price as a Chaos Lord. Though perhaps one bit of bad news is the Troops box set being more expensive than I would have guessed. For some reason the Tormentors or Infractors box set looks like it's £44 or $70, which is just a very chunky points cost for a box of 10 Space Marines. That's more than virtually all the equivalents for that. I'm not sure why these guys are more expensive than say a box of 10 Khorne Berserkers, which feel like they're a higher class of troop to me, or why they're so much more than say Infiltrators or Incursors, which very much feel like equivalent troops but for Primaris. Kind of disappointing for the cost for them, but I guess they would be a purchase that not as many people would want to get individually. Hopefully a lot of people have picked them up via the Champions of Slaanesh box set, and you do get some in the Combat Patrol as well, so maybe it underlines the value of those. Finally, for the Noise Marines, you get 6 of them in the box set, and they are $65 or £42.50. So basically exactly as I predicted for these guys, that's the same price point as the Heavy Intercessors, and it felt like they could be around about that sort of point mark, having one more model but not being quite as chunky miniatures. Overall, for the most part, more or less in line with what I was expecting. Some a little bit lower, some a little bit higher, and as ever, very expensive plastic coming from Games Workshop. Let me know if it's impacted your decisions as to whether or not to pick anything up or not down in the comments below. If you were looking to pre-order any of the stuff, the channel's affiliate discount retailers are linked down in the video description. I already mentioned Element Games and Taschengeldieb. Though in Australia there's Gap Games, in Canada there's Fenris Workshop, and in the USA there's Wargame Portal, all giving good discounts versus Games Workshop prices, and anything bought through them as well as saving money helps to support Auspex Tactics a bit. I feel like there's at least a reasonable chance that Fulgrim could sell out quickly. We don't know just yet, but if you are trying to land him at a discount at least, I'd probably aim to be there early. Feels like copies could sell out fast, even if Games Workshop does give the discount retailers good amounts of stock, which they often don't. In any case, they go live at midnight Eastern Time in the USA and Canada, 10 AM in the UK for Element, 11 AM in Europe, and midday Australian Eastern Time for Gap Games. Otherwise though, and sort of tangentially connected to the Emperor's Children releases, it seems that Games Workshop have shifted around their web store a little bit, creating a whole section for the Emperor's Children now, and they seem to have linked a whole bunch of the units that they can field there, basically all the things that you could field in the codex like Land Raiders or Chaos Sorcerers and things, and I guess waiting in place for the rest of the kits to arrive when they'll turn up there on Saturday. A small interesting thing that might well be nothing but might well be something, is that it seems that the Demons kits for Slaanesh Demons have fully migrated over there, for whatever reason, for Warhammer 40k. If you click on the Chaos Demon section of the range now, Demonettes, Fiends, the Keeper of Secrets, and the Seekers, all of those don't appear under the Chaos Demon section anymore. You have to go into the Emperor's Children section or their Head Knights of Slaanesh, Army for Age of Sigmar if you want to find them. Obviously not exactly the biggest deal on the web store where you'd probably just search anyway, but could potentially be another small insight as to Games Workshop's thinking with Demons, and might not necessarily help speculation as to what happens with them in 11th edition. Looks like they've rewritten the product descriptions for them as well. Demonettes are now listed for your Emperor's Children or Chaos Demon armies in Warhammer 40k, Emperor's Children listed first despite not being alphabetically first, or for use in Age of Sigmar. Obviously nothing's likely to be changing in the absolute near future. Games Workshop basically confirmed that Chaos Demons aren't getting a codex in 10th edition, though they'll still be completely playable from their digital index with their 6 detachments that they've got at the moment, though I think people are just a bit apprehensive as to what happens with them next edition, as it certainly implies that they're not going to be supported quite as well if Games Workshop isn't giving them a codex. I guess we'll find out then if Games Workshop's going to reverse course and give them more support again, keep them in a bit of a limbo, or more fully integrate them into their deity legions. Otherwise, for a couple of small hints and reveals on Warhammer Community, there was a Rumour Engine a couple of days ago that looks odds on for Warhammer 40k, basically a handheld controller device type thing that looks more like it's a remote control than a scanner of some sort. Kind of fun that they've got a couple of tiny little analog sticks with a bunch of dials and a little aerial. I saw someone refer to it as a Nintendo Switch but for 40k, which was kind of fun. Certainly seems most likely to be 40k or Necromunda, and I feel like at this point, with the Leagues of Votann expecting a release wave sometime later in the edition, speculation goes to them as the first port of call. At least superficially it feels like it could fit in well enough with their tech at first glance, and if it was something for them, maybe could be a robot or a sentry gun operator or some kind of remote bomb. Definitely could have some interesting possibilities. Otherwise could maybe be a kill team specialist of some sort. Feels like that might fit the bill quite well. Certainly looks all rather imperial if it doesn't turn out to be Leagues of Votann though. On the subject of Rumour Engines that looked rather Leagues of Votann though, I thought I'd just mention this one which I had talked about once in a previous video. This toolbox held by a robotic hand now looks like it's a solved one on the Admech kill team, and this was one that I was really quite sure was Leagues of Votann. It's just got the same pattern of 3 grills with a bunch of rivets nearby, plus the robot arm looked kind of reminiscent of the ones by their little robot assistants and helpers, but turns out Specialist Imperial Servitor regeneration was the answer to that. For a small but fairly fun model reveal, there was a new Tarantula Missile battery model revealed last week. These ones primarily aimed at the Horus Heresy, a new plastic model of something that was a previous Forge World model. I want to say that previously they weren't necessarily particularly tied to the Heresy any more than they were contemporary Warhammer 40k. And they did have a datasheet, and still do, with a Legends one for the Space Marines. These things are basically expendable sentry gun type things, programmed to fire at relevant targets when they get into effective range, and they can be used as area denial kind of assets. And other variants of them exist. These ones appear to be the anti-air ones. They've also got variants with heavy bolters and las cannons. I believe the Astra Militarum have rules for those in Legends at the moment in 40k. For this one, you've got the choice between 2 missiles or 10 missiles. The 2 big ones are the anti-air ones, whereas the other ones, I believe, are a frag barrage one, maybe kind of similar to a whirlwind. And I feel like when they're released, they could be of some interest to converting turrets to certain tanks. I feel like they could do well enough to represent certain things like either Space Marine whirlwinds or various guard artillery. Maybe even a very different look for a Sisters of Battle Exorcist, depending on how big they are. Though I feel like they'd have to be at least fairly cheap to go down those sort of lines for them. Here's their Legends datasheet at the moment for Warhammer 40k. It's 70 points for one of these, and they get D6 shots at Strength 7, AP-1, Damage 1, or with Anti-Fly 2+. If they're paying 70 points for the damage output, unfortunately that's really quite bad. They don't even have good durability either. Though they do get to Overwatch for free, so I guess you get a little bit of scattergun fire in the enemy turn. Like a lot of Legends though, not exactly very well supported or well balanced versus the other things in the Space Marine Codex. Another small teaser from Games Workshop on Warhammer Community was a small lore teaser for the upcoming Fulgrim book. That's another one going alongside the Emperor's Children pre-orders this weekend. This one should be £20 or $30, I believe. And Games Workshop posted an interview with Jude Reed today. They gave a few more hints as to the story. The teasers so far have hinted that Fulgrim gathers a bunch of his sons together and sets them the task of taking down a Black Templar world called Crucible, but has a bit of a warped and twisted scheme that ultimately seeks to pit them against each other to some extent. From the most recent teaser, the language was used that his son should start acting more like a legion again, so maybe trying to assert some sort of authority, though perhaps he'll just get bored by the end of the book. There were just a few other teasers, including some viewpoint characters. Apparently the narrative is told through a fair few eyes. There's a Chaos Sorcerer, a Duelist Champion, a citizen of the planet that's being invaded by the Emperor's Children, which probably isn't a great place to be in, and the Black Templar's Emperor's Champion defending the world. There's maybe nothing too massive revealed in this particular teaser, basically saying that Fulgrim just has endless pride to the point where no achievement will ever be enough for him, and there are some somewhat introspective scenes with him in the book talking about his motivations and his ultimate ambitions and schemes being laid bare by the end. Certainly sounds like an interesting one in any case. Always cool to see a new contemporary exploration of a Primarch who's basically been absent from the setting for a good long time. Finally, and just one small other interesting thing that was shared to me recently was that Games Workshop looked like they've got a whole bunch more job openings up for grabs in the UK at the moment. I'm not sure if this implies they're expanding a bunch of their teams, but they've got things like a mold tool specialist and molding engineers, graphic design things, miniature concept artists, miniature designers and sculpting artists, art managers, Age of Sigmar rules editors, and other things going on. Just seemed like quite a lot all at once there. It does sound like they've continued to be all very profitable recently. Certainly seems like it's a good year for them, with loads of interest gained from the Space Marine 2 game, driving them to some rather record sales, even if it wasn't a 40k new edition year, which apparently usually gives them a big boost. I'll leave that mini roundup there though. Let me know what you make of the Emperor's Children prices. Look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below. As mentioned, feel free to check out all the discount affiliate links in the video description if you're looking to pick up any 40k models in the near future. As mentioned, Element Games and Tattengal Deep still have the Champions of Slaanesh box up for grabs. And here are the pre-order times for Fulgrim at the weekend. I'll hopefully aim to cycle back to the Emperor's Children once more before then and talk through a little bit of polls and data as to which of the miniatures that are most in demand. I'll leave that there for now though. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming. Aside from the affiliate links, if you'd like to help support the channel, the Patreon page is linked down in the video description. A massive thank you to anyone checking that out or supporting there. In any case though, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.